Okay, so we are going to go ahead and get started. I see some people that have popped in the questions box here. I see some people from Wisconsin, Michigan, Virginia, New York City, um, and we appreciate you joining us. So let's go ahead and get started. So the purpose of this webinar, of course, is to talk about what's probably one of the hottest topics in the tax space right now, and that is artificial intelligence and how it relates to helping tax preparers to do their work better. And so this presentation is meant to, bring people that maybe are not as familiar with AI forward to where the technology is right now, but it's also going to have something for people that are already well immersed in the technology of AI right now. So what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and get started. And, first of all, I do want to take care of a few housekeeping um, matters regarding the earning of CPE credit. So Wolters Kluwer, CCH, is registered with NASBA as a sponsor of continuing professional education on the National Registry of CPE sponsors. State boards of accountancy have the final authority on the acceptance of individual course for CPE credit. Complaints regarding registered sponsors may be submitted to the National Registry of CPE sponsors through its website, nasbregistry.org. Today's webinar is worth a total of 1 CPE. A total of 4 polls will be conducted throughout the presentation, and you will need to participate in all 4 polling questions to receive CPE credit. Your certificate will be sent to the email used to register for the webinar within 5 business days after the session. Now, if you do not receive your certificate, please email us at taana-webinars@wolterskluwer.com. And please note, CPE is not available when viewing the on-demand version of this webinar. It'll be great to go back to and reference, of course, but just know that no CPE is available when you watch the on-demand version. So we appreciate you being here. So another housekeeping item I want to take care of. So this webinar is sponsored by TaxWise. TaxWise is the tax preparation software that helps you maximize productivity, revenue, and efficiency so you can focus on your clients and grow your business. It's best suited for those that focus on 1040s and business returns. It serves sole proprietors, multi-offices, as well as service bureaus as well, and CPAs. So TaxWise has the tools, and as you will find out, it's one of those solutions that is very much involved in AI development in the solution. So we appreciate that, and we will go ahead and jump in. Now, what I like to do is go ahead and let's jump into our first polling question. We always like to find out, who it is that's in the webinar, so we can get a better understanding of what that is. So if you can take, we're going to give about a minute, 30 seconds here for you to take the poll. This is our first poll, and I'd like to ask you, what best describes your tax business? Do you mainly prepare 1040 returns, common schedules, deductions? Do you prepare both 1040s, business returns? Do you specialize in tax advisory, planning, audit? Or do you operate a service bureau reseller business? Or it could be none of the above. We actually do have people that are in the none of the above category. They just want to come in and learn about where this technology is in the tax professional space. So if you can take a moment to answer that polling question, we'd appreciate it. And we'll give it another 30 seconds, and then we will then go ahead and move on to the introduction of our speakers. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and close that poll out. I'm going to share the results with each of you, and it does appear, Jamie, we do have quite a few people that are involved in not only 1040 preparation, but they're involved in business returns as well. So for those that answered the poll, we appreciate that. Thank you very much. Now let's move on, and the next thing I would like to do is introduce our speakers. I'm going to come on camera now. My name is Brandon Sims, and I'm a content marketing manager at Wolters Kluwer Tax and Accounting. But I'm really not the person you're here to see. You're here to see Jamie Vanderhagen. Now, Jamie, I have the pleasure of working with Jamie here at Wolters Kluwer Tax and Accounting, and he's the Technology Product Management Director for Wolters Kluwer Tax and Accounting, and he's based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Jamie oversees the product development of our TaxWise tax preparation solution in our Prepare segment. But the reason I brought him onto this webinar is he is very well suited to speak to where AI is industry wide, but also specifically to what he works on a day-to-day basis. Jamie, I hope I did you some justice. He is the Technology Product Management Director. If you could give us a quick introduction, tell us a little bit about yourself, Jamie, and then we'll jump right into the presentation.
Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate that. It was very nicely done. I want the folks attending today to realize I am not AI generated. I am an actual living, breathing person. I've been with Wolters Kluwer for about 21 years in various roles and capacities. And as Brandon said, I'm over the TaxWise business and really focused on looking how to improve that to serve your needs today, tomorrow, and on into the future.
Very good. We appreciate it, Jamie. And I want to, Jamie's going to really be hitting on a lot of topics regarding AI. One of the things I wanted to jump into before we start is to talk about our agenda during this discussion today. So, one thing that we're going to start out with is an AI demo. Some of you may be familiar with an AI demo that OpenAI did back about 2 years ago that really caught everyone's attention. We're going to cover the findings of that. We're going to talk about tax preparer considerations and concerns. We're going to look at the current state of AI in tax prep, where the technology is and where it's headed. I think one of the things that's going to make this webinar a bit unique and very helpful to those that are attending is the day in the life use of AI, where it's actually you can get a practical view of how this technology can help you on a day-to-day basis. And then we'll summarize with some resources and Q&A if there is time. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Now, what I'd like to discuss is I mentioned 2 years ago, I think this was about March 2023, Greg Brockman, who's the co-founder of OpenAI, performed a tax calculation on ChatGPT-4. This was the rollout of ChatGPT-4. And what he did, it was pretty amazing if you watched it. It's not a very long video. Most of you could probably find it on YouTube. But what he did is he copy and pasted 16 pages of the IRS tax code into ChatGPT-4. And he also entered general tax filer info on a joint married couple. Their gross income, the W-2, 1099, just the basics of the return. And the results, when he did the actual live demo, were very, very enlightening. And to some people, you had people that were witnessing that demo that got very excited. And then you also had some people that got a little worried because they saw, hey, wow, this AI is really serious, and it can calculate information very rapidly and accurately. So, Jamie, I know you watched that demo too. The long story short, when he put that information in and he put the information on the taxpayer, it spit out the tax liability of the hypothetical taxpayer client, and it was spot on. And Jamie, I know you watched the demo too. Anything that you have to comment on that demo that really kind of opened up the eyes of a lot of people?
Yeah, it obviously was the shot across the bow for AI in the workspace as it relates to tax preparation. One of the things that was really cool about it was it did exactly as you expect AI to do. It took a set of data, applied it to another known set of data, and provided you with the information that applied for that particular situation. It definitely was very exciting. I will also acknowledge it was a little bit alarming, but at the end of the day, what it did do was paint a use case for where it could be used going forward in the future. What we're going to be talking about today through the course of this is the idea of artificial intelligence, but more specifically, responsible artificial intelligence in the sense that if kept unchecked, if kept in a situation like that, the results you get can be very different. without some knowledge or context of the user to understand what it is that's happening and what the information is that they're seeing. And at Wolters Kluwer, we're very focused on that use of responsible artificial intelligence, and that we're applying our own knowledge, our own research, our own processes and policies to ensure that not only our use of it is accurate, but when you have to be right, we want to make sure that we're providing only that appropriate information as part of our solutions.
Absolutely. Yes. I concur. It was a bit of an eye-opening experience, but you know what? It put a lot of tax professionals in the proper mode of thinking about what type of technology that they need to be keeping their eye closely on, and AI is definitely one of those.
Exactly right. And
Mhm.
I did a little research, and of the 170, nearly 170 million individual tax returns that were filed last year, not a single one was done using AI completely. Now, that doesn't mean that's a forever thing, and it has to be true because I did ask Chat GPT that question, and the answer was 100% accurate. But the fact remains, it's a technology that, when used responsibly and in conjunction with the standard approach, can provide a lot of great benefits. This particular demo, a very exciting model to help sell the concept of artificial intelligence and how it can be used. And I thought it was very interesting to see and how it can be applied in the real world.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you for that, Jamie. So what we're going to do now is, and I say, Brandon, we have already done a polling question. We're going to go ahead and jump into our second polling question. And this polling question revolves around what best describes, let me go ahead and launch this for you. What best describes your use of artificial intelligence in your tax business currently? Are you already using a variety of AI tools in your tax business currently? Maybe you've just started to use some AI tools in your tax business. There's going to be quite a few people that say, look, I've not started implementing AI tools at all in my business, but I'm very interested in it. And then, the last response, there's going to be some people that fall into that category, of course, too, is, they're not really sure. I need to know more about this AI before I decide whether I want to actually bring it into my business processes. So we're going to give people an opportunity to answer this polling question. This, again, is the second polling question of the 4 that we'll be offering. Got about 83% responding here. Take a moment to answer the question. Then we'll move on. I'm going to give another 30 seconds here.
It seems to be nicely aligning, Brandon. I like this.
Yeah. And there's definitely quite a few people that are in the right place being in this webinar. I'm seeing that. All right, so we have crossed the 90% polling threshold here. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll, and I'm going to share the results. And what we're finding here is that most people are answering that they've started to use some AI tools, but there's a much larger, not a much larger, but a slightly larger percentage that have not implemented AI tools at all, but they know they probably should be looking at doing that. So I think you're in the right place to learn about how AI can be used. So we're going to go ahead and close the poll out. And then, Jamie, I want to move over to our next slide. And just to kind of set everything up, there's a lot of speculation, fresh off of our review of the Chat GPT-4 demo, that again is 2 years old. The AI tech has advanced further since then. Can you speak to the speculated impact that tax pros may have regarding AI's impact on their business?
Sure. Yeah, that great questions, great points, and I love seeing the results of that poll. It aligns very cleanly with the discussions we've been having as well. There are so many potential positives with how to leverage artificial intelligence in your processes today, and that's really kind of the nut of what we're trying to cover here. Is the idea of a complete tax prep artificial intelligence agents. Maybe someday. Right now, though, it really is a tool that you can leverage to your benefit. It is something that can bring efficiencies into your business. It can help bring your annual hires up to speed much more quickly to make them effective in your tax prep process. You can actually create returns in much less time when used effectively, opening up significantly more capacity for yourself to take on more taxpayers, more clients, and ultimately, tax law changes very dramatically, it seems, every year lately. But it gives you access to information to help you address the questions that your taxpayers may have. So it really arms you with some tools and some capabilities to make it easier, more efficient for you to do what you're doing every day during the season, and during the off season as well. There are, as with every good, there's also potential for some negative things. I already mentioned it. The technology, it's evolving very rapidly. You saw, 2023, it's come quite a way since then. The technology will continue to evolve, and it could someday put me out of business. I don't think we're on the verge of that by any means. I want to make sure that you understand that's not a cautionary tale. But I do think, particularly in the very basic 1040 space, very simple returns there, that will likely be the ones we'll see first, obviously. But we're not looking at that today, and it really will start to step into that DIY space much more aggressively over the coming years. And it's a technology. And everybody knows with technology, there comes cost. There's an increase in expense to operate and offer these types of technologies. And so your costs may go up as well. The trick with that is to be very mindful about where you spend, in that if it's bringing you efficiency that offers you capacity that allows you to bring in more business, you got to look on that return on investment. It's like any other investment you make in your business. And the learning curve, it's going to be steep. And this is where I talk about, or what I was talking about and referring to with responsible AI. There are positions being created. There are new roles in organizations that are being framed up, called prompt engineers, who are specialized in how to ask the right questions to elicit the right information and the right answer, or the correct answers based off of how that is being structured. It ultimately comes down to how you ask is what you'll get. And if you're not asking the question correctly, or if you're not understanding how to best leverage it, it can provide you with information that may not be accurate for your particular situation. So there is a learning curve to it, and it will be steep. Over time, that will get better and it will improve, and it'll become easier and easier to use the tools as you go. And then likewise, I hate change, so I'll ignore it. Viable answer. That's a very realistic way to go about things. I cut my teeth in the banking industry years ago. I know I don't want to give my age away, but the gray beard on your screen probably tells a little bit more about that. I went through the evolution of automated underwriting in the banking industry, and I sat across from many bankers and many senior loan officers who said, no technology will ever tell me what my gut tells me today. As you've seen in that space, that process of underwriting loans is now a few seconds and a few clicks. It evolves over time. You can hate the change. I'm going to recommend that you don't ignore this one, though. This is something that will need to be brought into your professional lives, as well as even on your personal lives.
Yep, great points, all of those, Jamie. Thank you for just going over that. I want to go to some of the areas where there might be some misconceptions surrounding AI, and maybe some valid takes on the technology. If you look at the myths, this is from Forbes magazine, had an article in April that said, AI, one of the myths is that AI thinks like human, it guarantees you a competitive edge. It doesn't really guarantee it. You have to use it properly. It can replace human creativity. That's a myth, but the facts are there. I mean, AI doesn't think, it processes data, good data in, good results out. And generalized use of AI may not keep you ultra competitive for long. So like you just mentioned in the comment you just made, is that you really have to stay up on this. And when you have a technology partner that's staying up on it for you, that's a big help. There are just some attributes that AI is not going to be able to replace. Let's just face that. But there are some unknowns. How dramatic of an impact will AI have on the tax profession? I mean, I think people have speculated that, well, the ones that are on the lower end that do mainly just basic 1040s, those are going to be the most vulnerable to disruption in the space. Um, and, hey, is consumer trust growing in AI? I know it's growing in a lot of generational pockets, but is it growing large enough to where people put their trust in it? Jamie, with those points being made, can you briefly put uh, kind of the cherry on the sundae on any of those points we talked? Are you finding that when you talk to your tech counterparts?
Most definitely. And I think the biggest thing in here is it thinks like the myth that it thinks like a human. What we see honestly when we're working through different AI models and different AI assessments and such is, if you don't understand context, if you don't understand the general basis of what the request is, you can get some really interesting answers that may not apply at all, that make it very much not accurate for your use. And so it doesn't necessarily think like a human. It relies on you to guide it to what you want or what you need. And it's still, like I was talking about with the prompt engineering, it's all in how you structure your requests and determining how you receive your information. And that the human attribute component. I want a general caveat for all of this is everything I'm talking about is covered under today. Today it doesn't have those human attributes. It doesn't think, or have necessarily the follow up of, I know you, general taxpayer, you have this information, but I don't see it in the information you provided to me. Has that changed? Those types of things may not be completely relevant or available yet. And so that human component that you bring to the table as a tax preparer, as a tax partner, if you will, really have merit in this space, even in the world
Absolutely.
of AI.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, with a lot of the counter arguments with the Chat GPT-4 demo that was done, that was a point that was made over and over again. There's just things that you just cannot replace that a tax professional does provide to the customer. So thank you for that input there, Jamie. I'm going to go ahead and move on. Now, again, the point of this webinar, we are going to be touching on topics that are more relevant to those that are further in their journey with AI, understanding the technology. But when it gets right down to it, we do have people on the call that really are just starting to learn about AI. And really, as Jamie, as you can tell by what we've talked about so far, is that AI, really good information in, um, good answers out, and it allows a compilation of information to be just surveyed, and solutions and answers can be pulled out of that imitate human thinking. AI, as the points you see here, it uses data to learn, and the more accurate the data is, the smarter it becomes. And AI automates a lot of these basic business processes that you might just look at when take a midweek in February where you're going into the office and you're like, oh my gosh, I've got all of this manual labor work I got to do. AI could be your solution to fixing that tedious work that you do. But just understand, AI is only as strong as the data and info that goes into it. So I wanted to just make that point. Jamie, one of the areas I really want you to maybe take, oh gosh, maybe 3 minutes on, if you can. I know
20
there's quite a
minutes?
bit in.
Oh, 3 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That's going to be tough.
We're going to look at time here. I want to make sure, because I know we're going to have some questions, but can you take 3 minutes to just go through the four primary functions? There are a lot of functions of AI, but the four that are listed on the left on this slide are really the biggies, I would say. Can you take 3 minutes to just go over that?
Yeah, these are the kind of the four pillars of artificial intelligence. Have had the most work behind them. What machine learning is obviously where we see a lot of opportunity in the tax preparer space. really looking at processes and workflows and understanding the ins and outs of how returns are assembled and put together and created, and looking at those in the larger context and identifying areas and ways that can be automated or improved to expedite efficiency. Generally, all of the things we look at here are really about efficiency and managing large bodies of information. But then you couple that with, I'm going to go out of order a little bit, large language models. This is an interesting thing, especially when it comes to tax code and tax regulations. Yeah, feeding that information in, like you saw with the Chat GPT-4 demo, that context, that amount of information, it's able to quickly digest and identify where information is new, changed, updated, so on and so forth. When we're, providing tax solutions to you, having access to tools that look at large language model sources such as tax code help us identify content changes, changes in forms, changes in how the system needs to calculate or work. It helps us more quickly expedite that analysis process to identify where those changes are. And then you get into the generative and agentic AI, and it really transitions from a technology to a human interface component to it. Looking for ways to interact with, I have a question in this general part of the system. What does this mean for this particular taxpayer? Agentic AI solutions allow you to take that information and say, based off of this information in the context of this area, this is something you should be aware of, or this is the answer to a question. So it really is that translation from more of a technical solution to help with back-end design, build, structure, to how do I interact with you as a user at a computer, asking questions or designing a process, or even as something as basic as a picture.
Okay, and thanks for going over those four main functions. Again, it's a lot broader than the four, but when we talk about really the big ones, that's a good summary. We appreciate that, Jamie. So what I'd like to go to is, we've gotten a basic understanding of how AI works and what it's all about. I think the majority of attendees here are wanting to know, what do they stand to maybe lose or gain by implementing AI, and why is it they should get comfortable with AI? I know at Wolters Kluwer we have a Facebook user group of tax preparers, and we did some polling recently. Now, this is anecdotal evidence, of course, but the recent surveys that we took suggested that many small to mid-sized preparers remain resistant to using AI. Jamie, can you take maybe 2.5 minutes to discuss, why tax pros really need to pay attention and get comfortable with AI right now?
Most definitely, and I appreciate your time management of me. Brandon knows I'm a bit of a nerd, and I love to talk about these types of things, so he's giving me the nudge. Large tax businesses, I mean, when you look at this across the board, obviously, large tax businesses operating at scale have the most to gain from this type of a technology, because it does bring efficiency. It does bring better insights into these, and it's natural that they're starting to really ramp up their investments in AIs, or in AI tools and resources. Doesn't mean it doesn't apply to the tax preparer space as well. You have scale opportunities, you have efficiency opportunities we'll talk about a little bit later, that can be captured as part of your day-to-day operation, and those are the same types of things. The thing that's really interesting about this from a demographics perspective, obviously baby boomers are lagging a little bit behind here. I understand that, but you're seeing the next generations coming along who are really stepping into this space pretty aggressively, and are very comfortable with it already. Maybe a little too comfortable in some regards, but generally really looking at it as, how can I leverage this tech to help me? How can it do these things for me? How am I able to leverage this? And when it comes to, like I talked about a little bit earlier, those types of demographics, when combined with tax preparation, it really does start to step into that DIY space pretty aggressively as they get more and more comfortable and think that they can go out and just type in questions into Chat GPT or what have you and have those answers come back. Again, this is where your earnings, your value as a tax preparer really start to come to the forefront as you're able to take and provide context and help and experience and apply it to those same types of needs and bring more of a trusted advisor along, helping those that may not be quite ready to take that step.
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you, Jamie. One of the things that we noticed from this Barna poll was that generational gap there. There definitely is one, but we do know, hey, the largest tax players in the business, some of them are really using this to carve out even more market share in the tax preparer space, especially the tax preparer space. So I appreciate your input on that. So, Jamie, we're about to shift gears here. We're going to go and start really looking at the day-to-day aspects of how AI can help people so they can kind of get a wide-eye view of how this technology can impact their work on a day-to-day basis. Can you cover the 4 primary benefits that we're going to cover in this day-to-day scenario as listed on this slide here?
Sure, definitely. These are these are the first steps into this space, really, when you start looking at that interaction model between a tax preparer and a taxpayer. Trying to elicit information, get the right forms and documents from your taxpayers, and really trying to bring efficiency to that starting process for tax return creation. You start looking at the technologies that are available in most every situation today, and that's mobile tech. Everybody typically has a smartphone on them, and so really looking how to leverage those capabilities, those technologies to enable a much faster capture and delivery of taxpayer documents. Using those to feed into the system then takes those, leverages artificial intelligence to identify the documents, identify the data, extract that data, and create returns to really cut down and minimize the stare and compare data collection processes of getting information off of those forms into a tax return. So you're looking at ways to streamline that. And then as you're going through that return creation process, answering those questions. Simple vanilla 1040s are not where you're going to get them, but as your taxpayers grow, they become and get into more complicated tax situations. They have questions. You're able to quickly ascertain the question, get an answer, get them the information, and then ultimately have it as a marketing assistant for you to start driving your communications and outreach. Simple things that are fairly easy to implement, but can have big time savings for you as you go about your day and you go about the season.
Good stuff. Yeah, thank you, Jamie. We're going to go ahead and jump into this, but hey, I want to, before we jump into the day-to-day scenarios that Jamie just described, we want to launch our 3rd of 4 polling questions here. So stand ready. We're going to go ahead and launch that 4th polling question. And this is a really interesting question because I want you to put yourself into the shoes of, hey, it's mid-February. You're going into the office. I usually say 8 a.m., but it's probably much earlier. Which task in your business, your tax business, are you most interested in streamlining in 2025? Is it client tax document data collection? Is it tax return data entry? That's very time consuming. Is it researching and responding client tax questions? That can be very time consuming. Or maybe you just, hey, I need some help on constructing a very accurate email to my customers, or maybe reach out to some customers that may be impacted by this recent tax bill that's now law. So if you could take a moment, I'll have everyone answer these questions, and I'm going to give another 30 seconds. Wow, I'm seeing that there's quite a few people, Jamie, that are really seeing the need for help in all three, or actually all four of the areas
Mhm.
above. I don't want to persuade people to answer any way, but interesting results here. All right, we're going to close it out in another 20 seconds here. Thank you for responding to the poll, please. Thank you.
Yeah, this is interesting. And again, not to lead any results, don't sleep on that customer communication and marketing one. I know that kind of folds into the all the above, but
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how you go into that a little bit more about how AI can help in that
sure,
regard too. So
sure.
that's good stuff. Okay, so I'm going to close the poll out. I'm going to share the results. As you can see, we had a small smattering, as we say here in Georgia, of the top three. Were, a big one, but overall, the majority of people attending this webinar see all four of those areas as something that they want to address and streamline and get, save time on. So there's no better way to enter the next part as we shift gears. Jamie, we want to talk about a day in the life of a tax preparer using AI. And so we've just covered the basic framework of AI. Now, what we want to do is, again, we want you to imagine yourself sitting at your chair. It's mid-February 2026, and you clock into your brick and mortar office or your home office. You're ready to start the day, or you're ready to start the day at your home office. And this is a day-to-day scenario, four scenarios where are coming at you almost immediately. So the first one that Jamie will detail is taxpayer info collection, how AI can help you in that regard. Number two is tax return creation. That's a huge area right there, avoiding having to do a manual entry, whether it be you or your office assistant. Expert tax answers. My goodness, we had this new tax bill. There's so many questions out there that your customers want to know about. And then client communications and marketing. And I know I say people will laugh to say 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Brandon, give me a break. I'm there at 6 a.m. and I'm there till 10 p.m. probably. So I realize that. So don't take that. That's just for the purpose of this presentation. So Jamie, I'm going to hand it to you. I want you to talk to us about what a day in the life looks like using AI, the old way versus the smarter way of taxpayer info collection. They're starting right at 8 a.m. Can you take it from here?
Yeah, definitely. And the workflow that was on the prior screen, take that and multiply it by 10, 20, 30 times every day, because you have multi-threaded returns processing throughout the day. So you're working through a number of those at any given time. And as Brandon said, yeah, definitely not 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's not a 40-hour work week. But the old way, this has been one of the key areas where we've heard it's the hardest thing, just trying to get the documents and the information from my taxpayer, trying to get get them to come into the office or get them to send the information into the office. And then once it's sent into the office, trying to keep track of it, make sure we've got it to the right people to enter it into the system. You're spending a lot of time just in the collection of the information, not even at entry or doing anything with it yet. It's just in the amassing of the information in order to prepare yourself to begin creating tax returns for that particular taxpayer or client. And then once you do get it in, traditional model is your staff then transcribes that information, takes those documents and enters it into a system. I think we're being generous. Really seasoned office assistants and tax preparers can get it done in probably much less than 30 minutes if they're really good and it's a nice clean return, to well over an hour, depending on what type of complexities may be present in that. A smarter way to do this, and if you've been to any of the trade shows so far this year, you're starting to see it pop up around the trade show floor. There's a smarter way to do some of this, and it involves, like we talked about previously, it's leveraging the technologies that are available to most everyone and using that to not only harness the customers or the taxpayers' documents and information, but then take that and leveraging automated or artificial intelligence to capture and translate that submitted information into identify what types of documents have been submitted, but then also extract the data and apply it to the form set and create the return on the taxpayer's behalf. It's not going to do the whole thing, but it just helps you get that initial harnessing of information available and into a usable format so you can quickly bypass the time-consuming process of gathering that information previously used. And you see at the 5 to 15 minutes, very straightforward. That's not a lie. The taxpayer obviously needs to understand how to take a photo or upload a document into their mobile device to start that process. That will probably be the longest part of that entire journey, is just getting the taxpayer to take that step. But once they do, what comes after that is really very, very quick.
Yeah, that's very impressive. If you look at that, that's nothing to just shrug off. That's a huge time savings just in that one area. Now
Just
let's
in
move
that upfront process, right?
Oh yeah, and you find that a lot of the younger generation wants to have that self-service capability too. I would add that. And hey, let's face it, even some of your more senior clients, they can certainly take a picture with their phone.
Yeah, mobility issues. The younger generation generally doesn't want to talk to anybody or see anybody in person, so that's where the phone really comes into play. And then for older clientele, mobility issues, ability to make it into the office, those types of things all play into that shift in how you interact with your taxpayers.
Absolutely. So let's move. We're going to fast forward. It's 8 a.m. That was your first, or one of your first um, issues of the day dealing with in tax season. Let's move over to, it's now 10 a.m. and tax return creation. So Jamie, let's take it here from here. Someone has done just what you said. They've taken a picture of their W-2, their 1099, and they have done it through the AI widget that one of our tax professionals has provided them. Tell us what happens here. This is even more impressive.
This is, and the historical way, you look at the form, you enter the data. You look at the form, you enter the data. You have a ruler keeping track of where you're at in the overall flow of things, trying to keep your eyesight from crossing as you go through the process, and then reviewing all of that data to ensure it was accurately input. Takes a while. Again, seasoned, returning annual tax preparers, tax staff can typically do that fairly quickly, but only as quickly as that stare and compare can be. Leveraging, again, these tools that we're talking about, the types of tools we're looking at. And speaking of, that information is automatically put into that return. There's no reason to sit down and look at it and go into it. Your responsibility comes down to responding to the notification in whatever system you're using that, hey, there's a new return ready for you to review and begin. You open it up, look at it, see who it is, see what information has been provided from documents, and you can begin the actual process of augmenting what has been automatically input and completing a return dependent on that type of information that was submitted. Very quick, instantaneous to a minute. So again, significant time savings across when you look at it, one for one, it's impressive. But when you extrapolate that over 100 or 500 or more, 1,000 plus returns any season, it starts to add up pretty quickly.
Wow, I mean that's huge savings right there. Instantaneous. I like that word. That's a great
good
thing
word.
when it
It's a big
comes
one.
to tax return creation. So let's move on. Now it's past 10. You just got back from lunch. You sit back in your office chair and you get that notorious email in your inbox, that quick tax question from a customer. We've all gotten them, right? You got a traveling nurse. She's emailing you a question specific to her state. Jamie, looking at time, if you could give us a 1 to 2 minute overview of what this AI functionality can add in the way of saving time and money for our audience here.
The first thing you typically do when that question comes in that you don't quite know the answer to right off the top of your head is you yell to everybody else in the office and say, who's got the tax book? Who's got the book that I can reference real quick to see what's going on here? Obviously, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but it's not that far off. But more often than not, you have to track down the source of truth. With new AI tools embedded in your systems, you simply, depending on where you're at, type the question in to the system, and it comes back with a comprehensive, easy to read solution and answer for you that you can then provide to your customer. No more hunting and gathering of answers and making sure that they're accurate and how you convey them. It can frame that response up right for you, and you can provide it directly to your customer and a quick turn of a click and paste, and you're on your way. So again, depending on the type of question, the complexity of the question, you can find significant time savings as you go through those processes as well. And again, on a one-for-one basis, yeah, it's something, but when you extrapolate that over your entire client base, again, these types of things add up, again, very quickly, very quickly.
Yeah, they're huge. And one thing I would point to, we talked about the steep learning curve. We're steep in the sense of what's the proper way to use AI. But as you just alluded to, Jamie, a lot of these AI technologies are interwoven into the tax software itself. So it's just a matter. In some ways, it's kind of idiot proof. You speak a question, you type a question, a conversational question, and then you even ask, hey, put my answer in the form of a conversational email that I can then turn around, copy and paste it, and send it to my client. So this is very
Yeah,
impressive right here,
and
especially with all the new
I'll
tax
augment
changes
that.
too.
One of the key areas that we hear about from customers is how do I help my new staff come up to speed more quickly? How do I help somebody who's green? How do I help them take some of these types of things on so I don't necessarily have to be the one to do it, much less have to review and monitor and ensure that what they're doing is accurate? It frees up some of that latitude if they're leveraging the tools within the system, and those knowledge bases, that information is again a part of a responsible AI source. Not necessarily just going out to Grok on Twitter and asking a question, but really looking at an organization that is evaluating and has policies and procedures around how best to leverage this technology for accuracy and completeness. You can push that and keep that with that new employee, that green employee. They can contribute value to you much more quickly than having to hover and monitor all of their actions day in and day out.
That's a great point. Very good point. So this is a very effective AI can be a very effective tool in this regard. We have a fourth day in the life scenario, and we are down the home stretch here. We got about 10, 12 minutes here. We want to have some time for Q&A, but let's go over the fourth scenario, Jamie, of day in life: client communications and marketing. Now, this is something people don't typically think of, but can you highlight this quickly here and just show our attendees what we mean by that?
Yeah. And I said don't sleep on it during the poll, only because, once you start gaining all of these efficiencies in the other areas, you open up capacity and availability to engage additional taxpayers and clients in your daily business. And part of that is old way, reaching out through customer emails, newsletters, social media. You don't know if it's directly hitting them or reaching the people that you want to reach. Rapid leveraging AI, you can actually go through and come up with quick ways to send meaningful information to them to engage reaction or engage participation. You can put together very insightful, leveraging some of the embedded knowledge base that we talked about previously, to put together real meaningful newsletters that can help your taxpayers understand, hey, I have benefit to do these things a little bit differently this year. Should I look at adding this type of information to my return or take it into account? Should I itemize this year? You can put together real meaningful, very insightful, and very articulate outreach to them that may hit a little bit differently than traditional marketing of old.
Yeah, great point. And like I say, with the tax bill that passed, there are some changes there that you could just very quickly maybe take a survey of certain customers in your book
Right.
of business and use these tools to reach out to them very quickly, prove your value. So again, we see some very massive tax savings here. Again, it may not look like it's a lot on the surface, but if you compound it to the multiple clients that you're going to have exposure to throughout the day, it's a big deal. Let's go here. Jamie, I'm going to let you do the honors here. Again, we are moving quickly on our time, but I want you to quantify. And we looked at all these time savings here. Can you take us home on the actual day in the life scenario? We've got another polling question coming up, and we've got some other slides we want to present. But this is a very powerful slide. Can you take this slide and walk people through
Most definitely. And this again, single return. We're talking, out through these efficiencies, through these new ways of doing things in a single return. You're saving in cumulative over the time period 8 to 16 hours per week, just in time savings. Now that's 8 to 16 hours a week. That's like an extra half a day in season. In normal people's time, that's 2 days a week that you'd have available to you to do anything that you see fit. These across your a footprint of 200 clients. Some of you have less than that. Some of you have significantly more than that. You can again see how these incremental shavings off of your process can mean real world volume and of time availability, not only to you, but to you and your staff, to then look at how to offer different offerings, bring in more clients, do different things with your time. And I think we even have a few recommendations or options that you can take on the next slide. But it's significant time savings, and we can't underscore that enough.
1 to 2 days. That's amazing. Now, I think at the IRS forum in Chicago, Jamie, you and I attended that event. And, we talked to different types of tax professionals, and some were winding down their careers, some were really trying to ramp it up. But think about that: 16 hours per week, maximum, maybe 1 to 2 days savings. For those that say, well, I'm kind of winding down the business, I don't really want to add new technology. Think about that as somebody that's trying to have more time, say, with your family. Maybe coaching your kids or your grandson's little league team. AI can compress that time that you're in the office. And for the person that's wanting to grow, exactly the opposite. Those numbers that Jamie just went over is assuming current capacity, your current clientele. Say you got 200, you want to grow it even more. Again, Jamie, I talked to people at the IRS forum that said, look, I'm at capacity. I can't grow anymore. I don't have enough people doing taxes in my office. How can I fix it? You mention AI, I mean, it just stops them right in their tracks. So looking at these different things you can do with that time savings, you can redouble your efforts to add more clients. You can do more profitable tax planning and advisory work. Again, you can spend more time with the family, maybe exercise. My wife is on me about exercising all the time. AI has the power to increase your work-life capacity and your life balance, rather. And so it's something, as Jamie said, that you cannot ignore. Jamie, what I want to cover here as we go down the home stretch here is, you're working in that space. You're talking with your tech team and those in your network. What's next for AI technology? You mentioned some of the stuff that's currently available. What's next? What are some of the other things that are coming?
Well, you're going to start to see it evolve quite a bit. And like I said, these are time efficiencies that are kind of the initial entry into leveraging AI in this process. You're going to see return optimizations start to present themselves where they're looking at this holistically, looking at a return, and are able to identify changes in how you return can provide better benefits here and there. You're going to see across your processes, when you start looking at how AI can automate certain low value functions to streamline further that creation process. And it will continue to evolve to the point where you're able to much more quickly gather that intel from your taxpayers, enter it into the system, and it's providing you with real world, real time insights into what that's doing. And then more critically, roll it up to your entire business. You can look across the entirety of your business to see metrics on how did you do this season versus last? How are we working overall? Sure, you can do that with an Excel spreadsheet today, but it's identifying and gathering those insights to say, if you were to do this a little bit differently, you could optimize this area and gain this much more in business every year. So it's going to provide you with a really powerful business partner in your tax prep business, to drive those values and that volume. And as Brandon said earlier, give you that balance. You can choose to do with it as you see fit as you go, streamlining your operations or augmenting and growing to the lifestyle that you're looking for.
Yeah, and the key is just don't get left behind. But Jamie, you've said
Don't
it
get
many
left behind.
times. Yeah, yeah, you said it many times. The thing about AI is to empower the tax preparer. It's not to replace them. Um, so good points there. I'm going to move this down. We've got one more polling question here that I know our attendees will need to answer here in just a moment. But the next steps for leveraging AI in your tax business. Now, it seems like we just started this webinar, and here we are, kind of wrapping it up. But there are next steps, and Jamie and I talked about this. Is you really need to isolate what the pain points that you specifically are dealing with in your tax practice. And once you've identified those pain points, we've listed four, then you need to look at, is my tech stack, is my tech solution, is my software, is it addressing those pain points sufficiently? If it's not, then you should look at demoing AI tools that best address your pain points. The one thing that is very important, and Jamie, I would like for you to highlight it after I go through the remaining points here, is coming back to the governance policy for how your business will use AI. It needs to be used responsibly, but making the leap to AI means taking those first 4 points very seriously, and then also start harnessing AI to address your pain points. And then the final step in that process is, post implementation, hey, go back and see, is it really saving you time? Is it really saving you money? And go from there. But Jamie, can you take 30 to 45 seconds to just discuss the governance policy? Because that is something that was an eye opener there to me.
Sure. Governance policy is critical. Because it's so readily available for you to jump out to, like I said, Facebook has AI tools. Every search tool you use on the internet has AI tools. X has Grok built into it. There's a lot of different sources to find information. And you want to make sure that when you're working with your staff, you're defining a governance policy that says, here is what is acceptable for use, here is what's not acceptable for use. You don't want to just allow any information to come in. Again, we encourage you to look for responsible AI utilization, somebody who's creating and providing it to you for the purposes of tax creation, tax preparation in the tax industry. So there's that context that you can take and have assurances that the information you're getting is, one, accurate, and two, reliable for you in what your current needs are.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, thanks for addressing that. That's one of the areas that I had questions about myself, but very good response. Now, as we wrap up on our final two slides and then we take a few questions, we at Wolters Kluwer, we are at the forefront of AI. We are investing in AI in our solutions, and that includes all of our solutions. Whether it be TaxWise, who sponsored this event, or Access, which is one of our solutions on the other end of the spectrum. And we want to provide you some resources before we take our last polling question. The QR code here, the one on the left, if you're interested in receiving a consultation about how Wolters Kluwer can maybe help you in the AI capacity, scan that QR code, save it on your phone, or visit the link. This will also be in your handout. And then on the right, you'll see a QR code to visit about our solution, TaxWise Online, which is our cloud web-based tax preparation software that will have and does have AI capabilities for 2025 and 2026. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and launch our final polling question, and we appreciate your patience in that. Let's go ahead and do that. And in this polling question here, we are asking the question, what are you interested, we've covered a lot of information here, but what are you most interested in learning more about? I mean, the part of this webinar is all about, hey, how can we, run our business better? Yes, it's July, but hey, we all know that we turn around, it's going to be, November, December, and tax season is breathing down our neck. So now is the time to really look at AI tax prep solutions to streamline your workflow when you get into January and February. So what are you interested in learning more about? Is it the AI tax prep tools with TaxWise Online? All the four scenarios that we presented to you are TaxWise Online capable. Mobile AI interview tools for clients, that's a hot topic. The integrated generative AI tax research solutions, that is huge. Um, Answering questions quickly, but most importantly, accurately for your tax customers. And then innovative AI tools for service bureaus. We have some service bureaus in attendance here, and those are businesses that can really, I mean, you talk about increase your profitability and growth. It's with the AI tools that we just mentioned. So we're going to give another 30 seconds, and then we will have some time for some Q&A if you can hang out just for a bit longer, Jamie. I know we are at time, but I promise you we're only going to take another 3 to 5 minutes to field some of the questions that have come in here. And by the way, if you have posted a question in the chat and we aren't able to answer it directly, we will get you an answer. So we appreciate your response. So I'm going to end and share I'm going to go ahead and end the poll here. And then Jamie, can you mind fielding a few questions?
Sure.
Okay. So let's start with our question and answer. Let's see here. Here it is. I'm using ChatGPT and or Copilot to get tax answers currently. Should I be concerned with the answers I receive?
Generally, they're generally accurate. However, they're only as accurate as information that they're aware of or has been fed to them. And so when you're using some of those third-party tools, general AI tools like that, it can provide you with inaccurate answers depending on how the questions are structured and the information it has access to in formulating that answer. I'll go back to, again, what we talked about very early on. It's not a human, it's data analyzing data. And if the data going into it or the data it has access to analyze for answers is inaccurate or out of date, you can get the wrong information. Responsible AI is the way to go about this.
Good answer. Jeffrey had posted a question in the questions thread, and he asked, can you please speak at length? Well, not really at length. Sorry, Jeffrey, we're not here, but I think, Jamie, you can address this. Can you speak to the threat, real or perceived, that AI may compromise the tax compliance and tax advisory services we provide? Can you speak to that, Jamie?
If I had the insight as to where this will go, I would be a very rich person today. Honestly, this is like every industry, every facet of our lives seems to be being inundated with AI. Do I think it's going to have kind of a transformative impact on the tax industry? I do, but not for purposes of it completely taking it over. I see it as more like we've been talking about today, where it's really about empowering you to facilitate those interactions, gather the right information, provide the right context, and really bring value to what you're offering as a tax preparer. I do think in that DIY space for very basic, there will be some erosion there as it moves down the path. But again, artificial intelligence is a ever learning, ever changing, ever evolving tool, technology, and space. It's a place that, it's exciting to see where it goes over the next 3, 5, 10 years.
Absolutely, absolutely. We had a question about, this is actually one that we addressed, I think, already. I'm winding down my practice. I'm not sure I want to make any changes to technology tools I currently use. Am I wrong for ignoring AI? I think, based on what you said and what I've said, AI can actually make winding down your practice a lot easier, I think. Here's another one. This is actually a good one here. What makes one AI tax tool better than another, Jamie?
I'm biased. We are, very, very experienced in tax code, tax compliance. It really comes down to the tools and how those policies and procedures are built out to add context and add the reliability side to artificial intelligence. There are functions in process that are very easy to automate via AI, but when it comes to the compliance and ensuring that what you're ultimately responsible for at the end of the day, you want to make sure you're working with a trusted partner to provide you with those technologies. Grok isn't necessarily going to give you the right tax implication for a particular situation. It might, but it also might not. You want to work with somebody who's going to ensure that it's right based off of the context you've provided.
Absolutely. Yep. Good answer. And then I have one final question. You'll like this one, Jamie. Can AI, now I know you're a big Minnesota Vikings fan. I like the Atlanta Falcons. Can AI tell me when the Minnesota Vikings or Atlanta Falcons will win the Super Bowl?
It cannot necessarily, but it's 3,000 to 1 odds and about little over a 3% chance of what happening this year. So those are odds as a lifetime Minnesota Vikings fan I'm going to live with, because the depression that comes from them ultimately not getting to the Super Bowl will be small. It's just a 3% hope
Right.
there.
Right. Yeah, good. I had to throw that in there, just lighten it up a bit here. But hey, look, great questions. Again, if we did not get to your question, we do want to answer it, and someone will respond in due time here. So with that said, I want to thank everyone that's attended the event today. We hope that as an initial kind of wading into the AI discussion here on the tax preparer side especially, we hope this webinar was informative to you. We hope we covered a lot of the high level stuff that brought those that aren't as familiar with AI up to speed, but we also hope we had something for those that are really in depth moving into AI and how it can really shape what your tax season looks like going into 2026. So we want to thank you, Jamie. I especially want to thank you. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule to hop on and join the conversation, answer questions. We had a lot of people respond that they wanted more information about what we talked about. We will follow up in due time, actually very quickly. But if look for on our feed, our social media, we will be having additional AI conversations that are a bit more elaborate, a bit more technical. And so we would invite you to join those. But for now, I would say goodbye. Thank you for attending and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Brandon.
Yes.